I would like to introduce our first speaker, Nagham Alsamari, The Missing Perspective. The Missing Perspective, Nagham Alsamari.
I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to my, hold on. Oh, there we go. Just wanted to get my feedback. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, my speech is The Missing Perspective. And what I'll do today is I'm going to take you back into my life in a few stories, just to talk about the missing perspective. You'll get the idea. The first, I want to take you back a few years to when I was in college. I was at the University of Michigan, and we had to travel to the Eastern Michigan University for a bunch of topics. There's a conference that we had to attend, and it was a political science class. And in that class, one of the topics was the Iraq War, the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Students were participating. There was a really heated discussion. They were all talking about the oil interest, America's oil interest in Iraq, and the soldiers going to Iraq and dying over there. There was a lot of perspectives there being shared. And I was sitting all the way in the back seat. I was a shy student. I didn't want to share anything. Actually, I did. Inside, I was burning up. I wanted to talk because I had a different perspective. I wanted to share that so badly, but I was so shy. It was so hard for me to open my mouth. I didn't know what I was thinking at the time. I had so much going on, so many thoughts. There were so many words on my tongue that I wanted to just escape my mouth and talk, but couldn't. And then all of a sudden, I felt my arm go up. I was so shocked with my body. It was moving all on its own. And I don't know what was going on with me. I think I was trying to already forget about this moment, but it was too late. I couldn't even get my arm down. I was called on. Teacher asked me, I had to talk. So my perspective on this whole thing was, my voice was shaky, by the way, because it was hard for me to talk. I was shy, remember. And I explained that number one, no one should be dying or suffering or going through torture. Nobody in this world, not American soldiers and not Iraqi citizens, and nobody in this world should go through any of this. So when we're talking about our soldiers going into Iraq, we'll also have to think about all the people that are dying over there too. And I'm not sure about oil interest or whatnot. I wasn't really into economics, nor am I now, but there is something else that's happening over there. People were dying in the thousands. They were being massacred. They were being put into mass graves. And I didn't think anybody knew about. When I started saying all this, the room went quiet. People were listening and watching me. I started shivering and I started even crying, and especially at the mention of my relatives back home. And when we called them, we had to actually code everything we said to them because we are afraid for their life. We may not see them again or hear from them again. All of this sounded like new information to everybody in the room. I was surprised. I thought people knew about this. Now, let me take you back a few years even further, back into one of my very first political science classes, where the conversation back then was the first Gulf War. The teacher posed a question to everybody. She wanted to know everyone's experiences during the Gulf War and where everyone was. And students were participating. They were saying, I was washing the dishes, I was at my grandma's house, I was taking out the garbage, and here I am, sitting again, being shy, quiet, and at the tip of my tongue, all these words that are screaming to come out. And I do have a good story. I was imagining myself running away for my life with my family on our truck from Basra to where I was born, to Karbala, to the middle of Iraq. And the reason why we were running is because our house got bombed. It went into flames. And we survived with ourselves, with our bodies, thank God. but I had this story to share and I couldn't share it. And you know what? Never did. But now, coming back to the present, a few months ago, I started watching CNN because I wanted to know what's going on with the corona and the politics and the election. And I was so shocked to see that every program that came on since morning all the way until night is the same. I watched every one of them. And the news is the same over and over and over again. They do interview different people, but they talk about the same things. I was so surprised to see that the news was the same all over again. And then I started thinking, if that's all people watched, how else are they going to know about anything else that's going on in the world? What's going on in India? What's going on well, they heard about Australia. We all did. But what about other parts of the world? Why do you think, if people wonder, why do you think should we listen to the news? If we know we live in America, we know exactly what's going on in America, why should we know about the rest of the world? I'll tell you, for at least myself. When I know what's going on in other countries, it humbles me. It brings me down to earth. It makes me connect to other people around me. It makes me thankful, at least, for what I have and be more, give more gratitude. And so that is why we all should have a different perspective. And that was missing, Mr. Toastmaster.
Steve, you're on mute.
I'm going to turn the meeting over temporarily to Nish Chow, and he is going to lead the round robin evaluation. So everyone can give Nagham feedback on her speech.
Steve, last week we took a minute for everybody to.
Oh, we did. Okay. Okay. So let's, yeah. Okay, Glynis, could you give us a minute?
A minute is up.
Okay. Thank you, Glynis. Okay. Now I'd like to introduce our general evaluator, Ms. Chow, who will lead us in a round robin evaluation. What a round robin, I'll let Ms. Chow. Ms. Chow, explain what a round robin evaluation is.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. So just starting off with what a round robin would be, I will just list out each participant's name in today's meeting, who is also an evaluator. And you would just use your turn to offer your comments and feedback on Nagham's speech. And then we can move on to the next person. And I'll just move down the list.
Oh, yeah, we could probably ask for volunteers.
Sure.
We'll go by volunteers.
Okay. Anybody that wants to go first? You can just raise your hand. And okay. Yeah. Hey, Steve. So first evaluator would be Steve.
Okay.
Over to Steve.
Thank you, Ms. Chow. Yeah, thank you, Nagham. So I'm comparing your speech this time to the first time. So one, as said before, the title is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
You had more energy this time. You were smoother this time. And I was looking, I think I forgot to have an ah counter, so I was doing ah counting. I didn't count it. I didn't find any ahs or errors in English. the standing up gave you more energy, and um, and it was smoother. Now, now here, this is a difference when you hear his speech a second time. I was more impressed with it the first time than the second time, but I don't know if that is uh, if that is from your delivery or if it's because I already heard it and now I know what to expect. But what I felt this time was I felt that your delivery last time, even though it didn't have as much energy, it was slower. That I felt it was slower, and I liked that. I liked that slowness. And last time you had a more connection with the audience, and you were had more variation in like you were slow and fast, and at times to be fast and at times to be slow, and it was just I thought it was just superb last time. Whereas this time I thought you were like kind of the same speed throughout, which which is not as good as what you had before. Um, which you so a suggestion might be is keep your eyes on the audience, and talk to them so that you always have them. You're like you're talking to them like you do when you speak normally in the meetings. And if you're standing up and because you're standing up and you're further away, if that stops you from seeing the audience well, then maybe I would say it'd be better to sit down. Although the standing up is good, but it's also important to have the good audience connection. If you can be slow. Yeah. Mr. General Evaluator.
Thank you, Steve. Anyone wants to go next? You can just raise your hand. And okay, Partha, I saw you raise your hand.
Yeah. So first of all, it was fantastic, and I want to say it's a really good TED Talk candidate because I love to watch TED Talks, and it's spreading ideas and like personal stories that actually resonate with other people. So in that perspective, it was and it was definitely I felt personally it was very well organized compared to the previous one. There was flow and there was like a better gelling together of ideas. Um, at some point of time, I did feel like it was a bit faster than it should have been, and I am guilty of that too. I hope that comes with more practice. That you might want to slow down further. And I feel like you have a very great opportunity to take the audience through a roller coaster of emotions. Like there was one point of time where it was getting more and more serious, and that's where you had a great opportunity to pause and let people think. And um, that silence that comes up in those TED talks, and then you can switch it up with a humor saying. That's just personally how I would do by saying you never spoke and that perspective was never heard. It kind of releases the tension. So that's just an idea I got. And then you could perhaps, maybe I missed this, but you could perhaps emphasize a little bit more on what happens without that missing perspective, like, or what it could additionally add in terms of, or unless you want to lead the audience to draw from that, I would personally say that it helps build empathy, or um, people are what they are without these missing perspective, and then it could help them change or go through a transformation or whatever that you want to say. I think you were mostly without any R's, but you did say at one point of time, which again you want to practice, and I'm sure that goes away more practice. But great speech.
Thanks, Partha. Oh, Sharon, you want to go next?
Okay, thank you, Nishal, fellow Toastmasters, and Nagham. I really do like your new title, and I like the way you mentioned it in the beginning, you'll see what's missing, and at the end you said, and that's what's missing. So I really like how you tied all that into your title. I did like the fact that you stood. It did seem to give you more energy. Try to be careful though when you are standing that you don't rock from foot to foot. there was a little bit of that in the beginning. So just be careful of that. I liked I got a better description of what your situations were like when you were afraid to speak, you were shy. I think and I also liked the story too about how the house got bombed and it was in flames. So I think you actually added more detail to those stories so I could get a better mental picture of what you were going through, like with the house. If you could even add more detail, I think. You were younger than, maybe I was 12 years old and we had 10 people packed in our truck and we were driving through the hot desert or something to get just a little more detail to let us see your picture. And also when you were talking about the first one, when you were afraid and but your hand shot up, you really emphasize the hand shooting up and you're trying to pull it down. And maybe that the room got quiet and you can pause then and look around as if you're looking at everybody looking at you while your words are pouring out. So make your hand gestures really meaningful. It's okay to just have your hands down to your side until you really want to use them to show something. And that's okay. But I really liked the more detail. I got a much better picture because I knew the first time when you went through that, God, this has got to be the most horrible thing to see your house blown up. But I like the more I'm going to say picturesque words, but I don't mean picturesque. I mean colorful, expressive words. Okay, let's see. And I like the end where you talk about, I watch the news too, and it's all the same. And even in America, we need to realize there are other perspectives. And if we just watch the same thing we don't get all the American perspectives, we don't get the international perspectives, you're right, we don't get to feel. So I like that conclusion that you made, and maybe just because I feel so strongly about the American one that we just don't get all the opinions. You have to go through all those different radio, TV shows, and it's all the same stuff. So I really enjoy your speech. I think it's a good message, a very good message. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Anybody else want to go? Just raise your hand and we can go from there. Glynis?
Just a couple of things. I really like the fact that you stood. So I would try just to take the other comments and try to make it better and not sit, in my opinion. I like the fact because you did have more energy and more gestures, and the gestures seemed purposeful and natural. They weren't fake, so to speak. So don't change that. What was the other one? You did have some ahs. Steve didn't catch them, but I did hear them.
Oh, good.
And I heard the also. But I think it was because you said you hadn't had a chance to practice, and I think you were a little nervous in the beginning because your voice was a little shaky. And I picked up on that. So and sometimes that's just going to happen. It happens to me all the time, but just you took time you just got to breathe through it, and it smoothed out actually as the speech went on. You weren't as nervous. And it's unfortunate that sometimes when you hear something, it's like not as good as the first time. I always think about that when I have to give a speech again, because it's never as good as the first time. But there was one line that you mentioned last time. I think it was when you talked about your house being blown up. Last time you said, I remember where I was because my house was bombed. That had more of an impact on me last time, and you didn't use it this time. So just maybe think about somehow try to incorporate the way you said it before. And that's about it. But again, it was a good speech. It just, I guess, put those impactful things, make sure they're impactful. Even if someone hears it twice, that they'll still be touched the same way.
Thanks, Glynis. Anyone else want to go?
Hey, okay.
Sure, Shane, go for it.
Great job again, Nagra. You did a great job with your speech. Like everyone have been saying, the energy was there, and you stood up again this time. That's always good. Just be careful because of the camera. So sometimes that does not cut some. I don't think that happened, but just be careful for the speech properly. Just quick one again, like I said last week. I think this is a lot of information, and you don't have a lot of time to pass across that information to people. So you gave a good like overview of that opening statement. So uh, you want to try to incorporate number one, media view, number two, world view, something like that. Then you build on those points. So people is able like to get more information from those points. I don't know how you want to do it, just to bring those points, drive those points to people to make sure that, oh, I want to talk about the media view. Then you put your points, details about that. The next point, maybe the world view. Um, then 3 points, like they say, 3 points is always good. If it's two, if it's three, you want to bring that and put those points in between and make sure you drive the one to the last one that is going to bring the audience home. So I don't know how you want to do it. For me too, it's going to be hard to put that into place, but just think about it. It's my opinion. Bring point into this because it's a lot of information that you are bringing together, very important information. But how do you want to pass those information so that even the judge can remember based on the point? So yeah, that's my little contribution, but you did a great job. Just think about that.
Sure. Thanks, Shehu. So, Steve, do we want to get a couple more evaluations, or do we want to?
Oh, give everyone a chance.
Okay,
we,
sure.
We have
All right.
time for everyone if they want to.
Okay, sure. Anybody else want to go?
I'll go.
Sure.
Right.
Sure, Maha.
So I thought Nagham did a really good job, and her presentation was also very good. One thing I would say is that sometimes there were hesitations in between concepts. So I think because there are so many details in this presentation, then maybe a pause in between ideas, kind of like what Partha suggested. Yeah, if you could pause at some points and just like give people a chance to kind of absorb the previous information, I think that would be a good idea. And it would take away the hesitations because there's just a pause there rather than like an or or if that can be replaced by a pause. I would have said practice more to get rid of those hesitations, but I feel sometimes when we practice a lot, we lose it doesn't sound as natural anymore. And one thing in your presentation, everything sounded so natural and so genuine, and everything was coming from your heart, and I think that's a plus for your presentation.
Thanks, Maha. Anybody else has any comments to offer?
I have a question. Well, one is that was very good feedback from Maha, since this was the first time she heard your speech, and she felt it was completely natural. So that's very good. Nagam, I had a question for you. When you gave it the first time, was it the same order? It was reversed, right?
Actually, I Shehu made that point last time, and I took his advice in trying to change the order around and then place more emphasis on the house bombing. I think Sharon said that. But you guys, the thing is, I'm trying to remember your comments from memory. I didn't have time to go and read anything or prepare anything. And I remember thinking about it at the time last Monday. So, and one of the things, I stayed in my office today, and both phones, my cell phone and the office phone, was ringing. There was somebody at the door, and there was a person behind me. I don't know if you noticed. It was a lot of distraction.
Oh.
I think that made me kind of nervous.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, I think I was thinking, if someone's at the door, who's going to get it?
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to leave, like, so that was kind of what my head was kind of distracted, trying to think of how to respond to all of these and give my speech at the same time. But I did change it around because I remember you guys mentioning, but the problem is what I found out though, even after I changed it around, I added more detail and I ran out of time. And it was a lot of information. So I need to actually reduce it.
If I can quickly add something. I came in a little bit late. Sorry about that. But I promised that I will come every week. Hey, Maha. Good to see you. Just to Nagham, you do not have to incorporate everybody's feedback into your speech. It will be too much, right?
Right. This is what I thought was actually.
Yeah. You cannot implement everybody's feedback.
Yeah.
You want to look at your time and look at all of this feedback that you received and see what can fit that specific narrative, right? Sometimes we all give you feedback that you can use somewhere else. It doesn't fit in this specific speech, but you can use it somewhere else. So be conscious of that, and don't try to incorporate everything that Steve tells you. If not, you're gonna have an hour of speech.
That's a good point.
Yes.
And I wasn't actually trying to incorporate everyone's. These are the things that stuck to my.
That's right.
Because these are the things that I thought actually would make my speech better.
That's right.
That's what I was going with. Obviously, there's no way for me to do that.
There's no way for you to include everybody because you only have so many minutes to talk.
Yeah,
and if you go too far, they will punish you at the contest, because you want to close strong, and then you want to open strongly in this context. In this context, that is what matters the most. How do you start, and how do you end, right? So you don't want to say you will say everything that Abe has been talking about or Steve has been talking about. We talk too much. You can't add all of that in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's all I have.
Thanks, Abe. Any other comments?
So I just wanted to say, I liked it better the other order because I think in the other order, the time that you were afraid to talk came first. Is that right?
And they were the same in both.
Oh, they were the same. Okay, then
yeah, they were.
Never mind. Yeah, then never
mind. Right. So Steve, I had a question. Can I give my comments now, or do I do it like okay?
Oh, do it now. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So Nagham, this was like my first time listening to your speech as well, and so make of it what you may. But I definitely think this is a terrific story and is really gripping. Like just to hear, how you would face this entire situation. In terms of things that I was looking out for, one, I would say it was just make sure to check your camera angles. Like, just be a little prepped about that before you do it. And one idea I was thinking, like, I know like at times you were sort of shuffling. So maybe like having like either a mental mark or like a physical marking on the floor so that you know that you got to be in that space. Because if you move out of that box, then either like your hands get cut out, or the top of your head gets cut off, and things like that. Just something to help, perhaps. And one other thing is, when I'm sort of generally listening to people, I'm usually focused on like their face and trying to read their expressions. And I know as a speaker, you're also very expressive. So maybe something that could help is like probably having like a light source of some sorts. I don't know how the lighting in where you would be giving your speech would be, but maybe just double checking to see that your expressions are visible on the camera might be something that's helpful for you. And towards the end, there was a part that you were talking about, getting news from different sources and getting a different perspective. One thing that I was sort of hoping to like learn was how does that, how do those, other perspectives sort of help, grow your or broaden your horizons essentially. So maybe I think this is something that you've probably incorporated in your speech, but I was wondering if like towards the end, if you were going to like tie that back to how that broadens your horizon. But overall, I think it was a really fantastic story. And as Glennis said, I did catch a couple hours, like I think there were about 2, but I think those should be fine now. If you're a little more calm and composed about things without the distractions, I think those would go away. So overall, I think it was fantastic. So great job and good luck. Thanks. I guess if we don't have any other evaluations, then I can hand it back to the Toastmaster, Steve.
Okay. Yeah. Great job. Michelle.
Thanks.